I'm more into tapping on your top things that helped you improve your German to the point that you talk with people naturally, authentically, organically, without this sense of hesitation. Mr. Noah, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Professor. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, actually. Welcome in this short meeting. Thank you so much for dedicating this time to have our lovely meeting to talk about language learning. Let me ask you this question. Since you are speaking more than two languages, you're speaking very fluent English and you're speaking Arabic and you're speaking German. Generally speaking, what is your way or what is your method of learning German?
Here's one of the things I do at the beginning of every course I run. I steer your mindset towards positive thoughts. And I want to elaborate on that a little bit because there are a lot of people out there who think that we were born with genes that made us polyglots. And this is wrong. There might be dispositions which enable us, or some of us, to learn slightly faster than others. Everyone can learn a new language, but we have to admit to ourselves that it's gonna take time. Muhammad Ali wasn't boxing inside his mother's belly, and Michael Jordan didn't slip out dunking. They all practiced their way up to success. They didn't do it overnight. They worked hard for it, and this is something we have to repeat for language learners. Because sometimes they forget that. Now, of course, we tend to regard people who speak more than one language or super athletes as gods. Mostly our thoughts would be like, they have been like that for their whole lives. I can't do it. He was born with six packs. I wasn't born with them. He was born with an English and French speaking mother or father. I wasn't, so no chance I'm going to gain six packs or I'm going to learn those languages. So we tend to regard them as gods. Because otherwise it would be boring to think that they were hustling. We like stories about heroes and supernatural powers and regard working as boring and even humiliating. I read comments on my YouTube channel from people saying that it's impossible to learn German, that life is too short to learn German, and it would be a waste of time and you'd better focus on another language. And I hardly ever delete comments, but when it comes to such fixed mindsets, I can't stand people scaring others away. And as I was a student, I used to go to a private school where we learned English on a daily basis. And I remember quite well that I was terrible at English. I didn't understand anything.
Was that back in Syria?
That was in Syria. So I had absolutely no idea why I was learning English. And that changed as my mother noticed my bad marks. Back then, my parents would always call a private tutor right away if there were any bad marks on the report. And luckily, I had a private tutor who profoundly changed my relationship with English. And without noticing, I started to understand more while watching TV.
How did he change your mindset in particular?
Yeah, I think that change came through my private tutor. So that was a person who I genuinely loved. And I appreciated everything she would do to help me learn English and to make me love the language. So I started shadowing certain actors without noticing. And I would walk around at home and talk to myself in English. And apparently, at the age of 14, I was so good that my English teacher bet on me grading the best note in our English A-level.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And so what I'm trying to say here is, once you adjust the proper mindset towards learning a new language, nothing will stop you. And of course, you'll face setbacks. But with an optimistic and motivated mentality, you're going to succeed. But it's going to take time. We have to remind people it will take time and it's okay.
So was it out of necessity that you learned German when you settled in Germany, or was it a hobby that you wanted to just go through and explore this language and the complexity of it?
Okay, so
how did you start with it?
I always loved challenges. And as I heard that German is a difficult language, I thought, let's see. And I didn't start learning German in Germany. I actually started in Aleppo. And I
Okay.
talked about that in one of my videos.
So you started learning German in Aleppo and then you moved to Germany. How did you find that the kind of language that you learned in Aleppo compared to the one that you found in Germany?
So I was only able to say Guten Morgen, which means, yeah, good morning. And I only knew greetings. I
Uh-huh.
didn't know anything further. When I'm asked what's the most efficient techniques that I use to learn German, I always respond with speak as much as you can. You have to allow yourself to enter that cycle of doing mistakes, learning from them. But in order to do mistakes, you have to start talking.
Of course.
Maybe it's worthwhile to talk about the theory of Gresham on language acquisition, in which he claims that commanding a language can't be reached by studying it. So Gresham claims that studying grammar and phonetics, for example, might provide you with knowledge about grammar and phonetics. However, being able to learn grammar and phonetics will require that you apply the knowledge you've learned. In other words, Gresham, correct me if I'm wrong, Gresham believes that learning a language the classic way is useless. And all language teachers and all language courses are worth nothing, according to him. And the most efficient way is that learner undergoes the natural approach of language learning. For example, if you want to learn German, you go to Germany and you wait until you can speak German. Yes, and I'm not advocating that you quit your language course today and go to Germany. Today, we believe that knowledge about a language is important.
No, I mean, this is a very debatable topic when it comes to discussing it, in particular from the perspective of modern linguistics and specifically applied linguistics, the kind of theories that he came up with during the 1980s and early 1990s had a huge wide global reputation, and people started talking about it and writing research. And up until like a few months ago, I had an interview with Stephen Krashen, and we have talked a little bit about it for an hour. And there might be some reservation, given the fact that the kind of limitations people had during the 1980s when it comes to learning languages, because there was not enough linguistic input, and the kind of technology that was contributing to providing you with enough input to realize the real essential language of the target country or target language is, and how it is used and adopted socially speaking. That all contributed to people's focus more on learning grammar and focusing on reading more and writing more and not speaking more. Also, I mean, people at that time didn't have Zoom to maintain this kind of direct communication between Germany and Iraq, and other kind of pen pal style of communication. So all of that is contributed. So it's not fair to compare the kind of methodology that we have now with that one of the 1980s. However, it's considered as a foundation of modern linguistics and modern theories of language learning. And I'm quoting Noam Chomsky's word: lack of social stimuli just made people unable to speak the language, because the language is activated socially if you're putting into practice. But if you do not have the social context stimulus, that's going to just make your language die out by the course of time of not being able to use it. In this perspective in particular, there have been some updates in language teaching and language learning, but all of that aside, I'm more into tapping on your top things that helped you improve your German to the point that you talk with people naturally, authentically, organically, without this sense of hesitation, unless you are in a very troubled psychological situation?
Yeah, so in my recent videos, I talked about how I learned German. And I learned it by living at a children's home. Again, because someone commented on my video saying, "To which children's house did you go? Because I want to send my child there." Again, you don't have to send your kids to such an institution so they can learn German. Nowadays, there are diverse ways to live with natives. And if you're not in Germany, for example, sign up for an account on italki or download the Tandem app, where you can find people who teach you their language and you teach them your language in exchange. Or even better, you can go to the local university and ask if there were any students from Germany or German-speaking countries. And I know that sounds cringe at the beginning, but language learning also needs courage. So this is also one of the fun things you face while learning a new language. You work simultaneously on your language skills and personal development. You force yourself to get out of your comfort zone and talk to strangers. You learn how to deal with mistakes when you do them in public. And when you have reached a decent level of language, you also learn how to stay humble. My most precious piece of advice here: surround yourself with German speakers no matter what level you are, and ideally try to hear German non-stop. There won't be a turning point where you wake up and have verbal diarrhea. You will learn the language gradually and you'll harvest what you sow.
That's quite inspiring, actually. You can case study of some researchers in this field when it comes to learning and having the passion to convert all of this practice into a reality. A lot of people actually go and seek for theories that prove whether the kind of method that they're using or not. And in today's world, nowadays, we're just converting practice into theory based on the observation. So in your case, all of that is contributing because you don't have a magic spell to learn a language. And once you get started in this track, you can definitely find it easier by the course of time to learn new structures and go deeper in this, in the beauty of this language. And once you have the knack for it, and once you have the determination, stubbornness, and coupled with necessity and a vision. So once you have these two, I mean, I'm talking from the perspective of a person who speaks only two languages. I really think once you have a vision, once you necessitate the fact that this language is an obligatory on me to learn, because it's going to open new venues for me in life. It's going to expand my horizons. If you have this vision, you will definitely get there.
Of course.
And once you get there, you'll find more ways to explore language. Language is an endless process. It's a lifelong journey. One last thing. I want you to teach me something very simplistic in German. Saying, for example, I wake up at 8 in the morning. And that's going to be the gateway to people, or for people to start exploring this language. Once you post that video, preferably, you can add some links for people to access basic, beginners, or elementary level German. And I'll be the first one to be enlisted in that and interested in getting a little bit of idea about German.
Okay. So let's start with a sentence.
I wake up at 8 a.m.
Okay, in order to say that, you have to use a separable verb, which means this verb consists of two parts. So this verb is called aufstehen.
Auf.
Yeah, aufstehen.
So how do I say I in German?
Ich.
Okay. And wake up.
Now you have to take the second part of the verb, which is stehen, and you have to conjugate that. And so you say stehen.
Conjugated with ich.
Yeah.
Okay. So ich stein.
Yeah. And then you say at 7 o'clock, which is
sieben.
Yes.
7.
Yeah.
Okay. 7.
Sieben. And then you say o'clock, which is Uhr.
Which means
then,
hour.
Yeah. And then you say auf,
That's easy.
which is the preposition of the verb I talked about.
AUF.
Yeah.
Or AUF or AWF.
AUF.
So, ich stehe am 7 Uhr auf.
Almost, yeah. I will say it again. Ich stehe 7 Uhr auf.
Okay. Ich stehe 7 Uhr auf.
Yeah,
something
great,
like that.
Yeah. Sounds very American.
This English accent, so it's probably gonna take me some Noah, thank you so much for this lovely meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.